my name's Leo. I'm a janitor. Or I was. I used to think my job was the loneliest in the world. I was wrong. There were places far lonelier than a deserted building in the dead of night. Places that are waiting. I worked the night shift at the Meridian Grand Galleria. You've probably never heard of it. Nobody has. It was a monument to a dead dream. A 3-story, 5 million square foot shopping mall that was completed in 2020, just before the world shut down. It never opened. The investors pulled out, the anchor stores went bankrupt, and the Galleria became a ghost ship. A pristine, modern ruin waiting for a tide that would never come in. My job was simple: keep the ghost clean. I was part of a skeleton crew, just me and a security guard named Frank, who spent his nights in a small office by the main entrance, watching a bank of dead CCTV monitors. For 8 hours a night, I would walk the vast, empty concourses, my cleaning cart rattling in the profound silence. The only sounds were the hum of the emergency lighting, the whisper of the air conditioning, and the squeak of my own shoes on the polished marble floors. It was an eerie place, a perfect, sterile world without people. Empty storefronts stared out like vacant eyes, their security grills pulled down over brand new interiors that would never see a customer. Food courts with pristine tables and chairs waited for crowds that would never arrive. A multiplex cinema with a dozen screens would never sell a single ticket. It was a city built for a population of 0. A liminal space, caught between what was meant to be and what it was. Nothing. I grew to love the emptiness. It was peaceful, predictable. I had my roots, my routines. I knew every echo, every shadow. I was the king of a silent, empty kingdom. Until I found the elevator. It was in a service corridor behind the defunct food court, a place I rarely went. It was a standard freight elevator, large and utilitarian, but with one anomaly. The control panel had the usual buttons: 1, 2, 3, G for ground, B for basement. But below them there was another button. It was unmarked. No number, no letter, just a smooth, black, circular button that wasn't on any of the building schematics. I had checked. For weeks, I ignored it. It was a glitch, a manufacturing error, nothing more. But the thought of it gnawed at me. The one thing in my perfect, predictable kingdom that I didn't understand. The one door that was closed to me. One night, fueled by a potent mixture of boredom and curiosity, I did it. After finishing my rounds, I stood before the elevator, my heart thudding in the silent corridor. I took a deep breath, and I pressed the black button. There was no sound, no jolt. The doors slid shut, and for a moment nothing happened. I was about to press the button for the ground floor, thinking it was a dud, when the elevator began to move. But it didn't go up or down. It moved sideways, a smooth, silent, horizontal motion that I couldn't comprehend. There was a low humming sound, and the air grew cold. The feeling of movement lasted for maybe 10 seconds, and then it stopped. The doors slid open, and I was still in the mall. But I was not. It looked like the Galleria. The same polished floors, the same high ceilings, the same sterile, modern aesthetic. But it was wrong. Subtly, deeply wrong. The fluorescent lights above hummed with a slightly different frequency, casting a flat, shadowless light that seemed to bleach the color out of everything. The air was perfectly still, carrying no scent, no dust. The storefront stared out like vacant eyes, their security grills pulled down over brand new interiors that would never see a customer. Food courts with pristine tables and chairs waited for crowds that would never arrive. A multiplex cinema with a dozen screens would never sell a single ticket. It was a city built for a population of 0. A liminal space, caught between what it was meant to be and what it was. Nothing. And I heard it. A new sound, cutting through the low hum of the lights, a soft, rhythmic sweeping sound. Swish, swish,
Swish! Far down the long concourse, I saw a figure. It was tall and impossibly thin, its limbs long and spidery. It was dressed in a janitor's uniform, the same pale gray as mine. But its movements were wrong, too smooth, too deliberate. It was sweeping the floor with a long-handled broom, its head bowed. Even from this distance, I could see that the floor it was sweeping was already perfectly, spotlessly clean.
I ducked behind a large square pillar, my heart hammering against my ribs. I was not alone. There was something else here, something that belonged here. I watched as the figure continued its slow, methodical sweeping. It never looked up. It just swept, its movements a silent, hypnotic ballet of pointless labor. I realized with a jolt of terror that this thing, this caretaker, was the reason this place was so perfect. It was maintaining the emptiness. It was the janitor of the void. I knew with a certainty that went beyond instinct that I could not let it see me. I was a disruption, a piece of dust, a stain on its perfect, sterile world, and I had to be cleaned. I began to back away, slowly, silently. I had to find a way out. I had to get back to the real world. I decided to try and leave a mark, something to prove I was here, something to break the maddening uniformity. I took a screwdriver from my cart, and with all my strength, I carved a deep, jagged X into the drywall of a storefront. I ran, turning corner after corner, trying to put as much distance as possible between myself and the caretaker. After what felt like an eternity, I stopped, leaning against a wall, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I had to get my bearings. I decided to retrace my steps to find the X I had carved. It was my only landmark in this featureless hell. I found the storefront, but the X was gone. The wall was a smooth, unbroken, perfect surface. It was as if it had never been there. The space had healed itself. It had corrected my imperfection. That's when the real horror began. It wasn't a monster chasing me. It was the space itself erasing me. I checked my cart. The screwdriver was gone. My small toolkit, which I always kept on the bottom shelf, had vanished. The space wasn't just healing itself, it was taking my things. It was stripping me of my identity, piece by piece. I started to run again, a new, more profound panic setting in. I tried to think of home, of my small apartment, of my girlfriend Sarah. I tried to picture her face, her smile, her eyes. What color were her eyes? Were they blue, green? I couldn't remember. The memory, which had been so clear just hours ago, was now a faded, blurry photograph. The space was not just taking my things, it was taking my memories. It was cleaning my mind. I screamed, a raw, desperate sound that was immediately swallowed by the silent air. I had to get out. I had to get out before there was nothing left of me to leave. I ran for what felt like days. The endless, identical corridor stretched on forever. The low hum of the lights was a constant, maddening drone. And always in the distance, I could hear it. The soft, rhythmic swish, swish, swish of the caretaker's broom. It wasn't chasing me. It didn't have to. It was simply cleaning. And I was the last piece of dirt. Finally, exhausted, dehydrated, my mind a fog of half-erased memories, I stumbled into a new section. It was different from the others. It was a vast, circular atrium, and in the center, there was a single, empty storefront. It was the only one that was lit from within, a soft, warm, inviting glow spilling from its open entrance. And standing in front of it was the caretaker. It had stopped sweeping. It was waiting for me. As I got closer, I could see it clearly for the first time. It was made of the same materials as the mall. Its skin was the color and texture of smooth, painted drywall. Its uniform was the faded gray of worn plastic. And its face was a perfect, smooth, featureless blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, empty canvas. It didn't move, it didn't make a sound. It simply raised one of its long, thin arms and pointed towards the open, glowing storefront. I didn't want to go in. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. My legs moved on their own, carrying me towards the light. It was a compulsion, a deep, overwhelming need to go where I was directed, to be put in my proper place. I stepped through the entrance into the warm, soft light. The room was empty, except for a single raised platform in the center. And on the platform, there were other figures. Figures that looked like mannequins, dressed in janitors' uniforms, in security guards' uniforms, in the clothes of lost choppers and curious teenagers. Their faces were blank, their eyes vacant. They were perfectly still. They were the other pieces of dirt that the caretaker had cleaned up. I walked to the platform, my feet moving with a slow, dreamlike inevitability. I saw an empty spot on the platform, a space that was perfectly, exactly my size. I knew what I had to do. I stepped up to the platform and took my place among the others. And then the stillness took me. My body became rigid, my limbs locking into place. The last of my memories, the last vestiges of Leo, the janitor, faded away like a dream upon waking. My mind became as smooth and blank as the face of the caretaker. I was no longer a person. I was a thing, a part of the display, a permanent fixture in the mall. I can still see. I can still hear. I stand here, frozen in this silent, empty room, and I watch. I watch as the caretaker enters the room. It looks at me, at all of us, with its featureless face. It seems to nod, a gesture of satisfaction. The room is clean. Everything is in its proper place. Then it turns and leaves, with its broom in its hand. And as it walks back out into the endless sterile concourse, I hear it, the sound that is now the only sound in my eternal, empty world. The sound of my own replacement. Swish, swish, swish.